I feel blessed that I'm having this question because as a renter and as a family that came here in the 90s, we wanted to come to this country because one day we thought we were going to buy a home, and for a lot of our families is that upper mobility is so crucial. So we have some programs, but these programs are small, like the LIPA or like the MCC program, which provides help for low-income people to get that down payment that we need. Because for a lot of us, saving those little dollars to get the down payment is really hard. So what I propose is to find more funding, to work with the state, with the federal level, also to bring more money, so that specifically we can have more funding for these specific programs and get to that upper mobility. Specifically for this community, we must advocate together to desegregate data so that we can apply and we can create the right policies that that can really affect you and help you directly. I also support collaboration with nonprofits and all of these organizations that are here present, because you guys have a very strong hold in the community, and you can educate people, you can provide that language justice, you can provide that education so that people can get these resources. And of course, a small home ownership is really important. I have been a small business owner, and my parents too, so this part is really important too. Thank you.
Having disaggregate information is vital for any and every government type of program. And the biggest problem is that people don't know about this first-time home buyer assistance. I mean, who here actually had heard about first-time home buyer assistance? About a third. That's great. But you guys are activists, and only a third of you knew. Do you know how many people don't have these services? What I would do is I'd go to the ethnic media to get it out there so more people would understand. Then if they realize, oh, I can get assistance, and you know what low income is? If you make less than $70,000, that's not low income in my book. And if you're a family of two, we're talking $80,000. So guys, those of you sitting here, you might actually qualify for the city's program. It's important that we do this. And honestly, the ethnic media has always been the best help for people who have limited English access, right? Whether you're Bangla, whether you're Vietnamese, you're Hmong, Mongolian, it doesn't matter. Your ethnic newspaper media is sort of a lifeline in America. It's not just the religious institutions. I know that generational wealth comes down through housing. So we need to build affordable housing, right? We can't have only expensive things being built. We need to build small homes, townhomes that people can purchase, and that's how you'll help with the generational wealth.
When it comes to housing, there's a couple of issues that we need to look at, especially when we're talking about the API community. The first, we have to be honest, is that LA is a racial segregated city. And so I would use the Civil and Human Rights Department in the city to make sure that we are actually leasing and making sure that the city is actually enforcing their own rules around who gets to buy houses. Make sure that housing covenants are not upheld in our city. Secondly, I will uplift family resource centers to make sure that people who are on the front line, people who are dealing with poverty, that we are fighting poverty and not the poor. So that we're using family resource centers to make sure people actually get information around what's possible and how we can move that forward. I will uplift nonprofits like, I see Hype in here, so FACE, I know, does a wonderful job helping Korean Americans in the Korean community get housing. And so how do we uplift programs like that to make sure that the models are in the churches and in the nonprofit organizations where people can actually hear what's going on for them? But last but not least, we got to look at public-private partnerships, right? When we saw that there was a big issue in the housing market, at LA Voice, we organized and got the law changed. We passed SB 4. That means that faith institutions and nonprofit institutions can now build housing by right on their land. What does that mean? More senior housing for our seniors. What does that mean when we pass ULA, United House LA? It means that we can now have money in ULA funding to build social housing so people can own their apartment buildings. It means that we can look at programs like the space program in Boston and bring that to Los Angeles to make sure that everyone has a pathway to housing. As a renter, it's very important to me.
For the past 2 years, I've been on the affirmative act, on the task force to look at reparations for African Americans. And in there, we looked at generational wealth and what the gap is. The primary gap is home ownership. That's the reason why our communities are lagging way, way, way behind. And it's because there are a lot of barriers to us being able to own property, whether it's redlining, even getting an appraisal. Some appraisals are much better for people who don't look like the people in this room than they are for people outside this room. The fact that you go to a bank and they're not lending you the money you can be able to go ahead and buy a home. All those factors have been impediments to us being able to do the first line of generational wealth, which is owning a house. Second line of generational wealth that we learned is owning a business. And we also have a problem with access to capital for that. And then the last one was the higher end, is being able to own stocks and have your money work for yourself. So we need to be able to not only invest in owning property, we need to make that the first line of attacking that. We did a 1,200-page report on that, and we're going to have solutions for that for African Americans. But I will tell you, that will be a blueprint for LGBTQ, for Native Americans, for women, and for API people to use to get their own reparations and remove all those barriers that keep you from generational wealth.